Hello, and welcome to the Fit News Podcast. I'm your host, Jen Shaver, and joining me today is Marie Cherrett, functional nutritionist. Marie is a trusted and compassionate functional nutritionist who works alongside a medical doctor in Harley Street, London, as well as working worldwide with private clients. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in nutritional medicine from the University of West London and a postgraduate qualification in functional medicine. Marie helps women aged 40 plus address midlife hormonal imbalances and symptoms of perimenopause and menopause naturally. These symptoms include fatigue, weight gain, mood issues, and many more, as you know, ladies. Marie's personalized approach is centered on understanding and correcting the root causes of women's health concerns, rather than using temporary fixes so that you can achieve lifelong results and embrace a future filled with renewed energy, vitality, and joy. Marie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
It's a pleasure, Jen. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, you have so much to share with us today, and I know that it will definitely pertain to many of us women out there. So I'm looking forward to learning from you today. Why don't we get started with your personal journey?
Okay. Well, I'm known to my friends and family as a bit of a health nut, but that wasn't always the case. Believe me, I was a real what we would call a junk food addict. Okay, a processed food addict. I also had bulimia, unfortunately, which is the eating disorder. And I had that from about the age of 18 until my 20s and 30s, actually. I didn't really get rid of it and it's always there, with things like that, it's always there in the back of your mind. But I'm pretty much over that now. But because I was so unhealthy, I was always unwell. I was always sick and I was on all sorts of medications. And unfortunately, one of my medications, I was overprescribed. And this was in my 20s. I was overprescribed a steroid. And if anyone knows anything about steroids, they suppress the immune system.
Yeah.
And consequently, I had lots of infections. My immune system wasn't helping me at all, and I had all sorts of systemic infections, including fungal infections, yeast infections, UTIs on a almost permanent basis, actually, Jen. So I had chronic fatigue, you name it. I had it all for 10 years, and I didn't know where to turn, of course, because my doctor, he tried to help, but they use like a band-aid approach on everything, tends to make the underlying cause worse. And I just wasn't getting better. So I reached out to a local nutritionist to me, and I began to get better, and hence that's how my journey began.
That's amazing. Well, I'm so happy to hear that, you have made it through, right? And now you are helping other women make it through. And now you're really focused on helping women through this, change in life that we go through with perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was preparing for my own menopausal journey because I'm 50, I'll be 58 this year. But I have to say, I don't feel any older than 38, which is, I put that down to diet and lifestyle for sure. But so I prepared for my own menopausal journey about 10 years before I actually hit menopause, because I knew that it was going to be, possibly, rocky. Well, my mother's menopause was rocky. So, so I wanted to help other women in the way that I myself had been helped. Because with functional nutrition, functional medicine, when we address the root cause of the problem, then symptoms begin to reverse. And really that's the way to go when it comes to health, rather than using band-aids to patch up things. And so I'm here now helping women in their 40s as they go through perimenopause, which is a really, really tough time for a lot of women. And when they're coming through into post-menopause, beyond 50, that's when all sorts of other health conditions such as heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, and things like that can show. So I also help women navigate through that as well.
Yeah, yeah. We know that many women, in particular in perimenopause, deal with estrogen dominance. Why don't we talk a little bit about, number one, what does that mean? And
Okay.
number two, maybe what are some strategies that, women could implement to kind of ease estrogen dominance, along with also, how does a woman know if she has estrogen dominance? Like, what are some symptoms as well?
Okay, I'll talk about all of that then. Estrogen dominance is a term coined by a Harvard researcher, Dr. John Lee, and he found that women can have excess estrogen, or they can have deficient estrogen and still be estrogen dominant. It's
Wow.
the fact that they don't have enough progesterone, which is the balancing female hormone that we've all heard of. If we don't have enough progesterone to balance that estrogen, we are going to be estrogen dominant. And unfortunately, some of the symptoms that we can get from estrogen dominance are things like heavy periods, and obviously if you're going through peri, you're still cycling, and heavy painful periods, weight gain, sexual dysfunction, mood disorders, anxiety, fatigue, headaches, you name it. The list is so long for estrogen dominance. Obviously, these things can be caused by other things as well, but estrogen dominance can really make our experience of this so much worse.
Yeah.
So some of those symptoms are psychological symptoms like mental and emotional, depression, anxiety. Some of them can be physical symptoms such as night sweats and insomnia and weight gain, which is something that a lot of my clients that come to me, they're experiencing all of these horrible things, but really they're very focused on the weight gain. And that is very, very apparent for women who are estrogen dominant, and that inability to lose weight no matter whatever they try. Okay, so yeah, it's very, very far reaching, unfortunately, and very, very common, and especially in today's society, because in the Western world, we are bombarded by what I would call junk food, and we're bombarded by stress and that very fast-paced life, which causes a lot of stress. Now, the stress hormone cortisol, unfortunately, is antagonizing to progesterone. So when cortisol goes up, progesterone will go down. That's just how our body works. That's how our brain sees high cortisol in our body as being, we are in survival, we are in danger. It's no time to make progesterone.
Right.
And so unfortunately, when progesterone drops, estrogen stays the same, and we have that estrogen dominant picture. And in fact, estrogen dominance can be experienced by women of all ages. But when women come into between ages 35 and 50, progesterone actually dips by 70%.
Wow, that's a significant amount.
That's a lot. When estrogen's only coming down, dropping by 35%. So immediately as we go into peri, we have that estrogen dominant picture waiting for us. But if we're highly stressed as well, and stress can come in many many forms, as I'll talk about in a minute. And when we have that high stress as well, then that's like a double whammy. Our progesterone is already depleting, but we've got that high stress, that high cortisol, pushing that progesterone down even further, exacerbating estrogen dominance. Yeah. So it's not a pretty picture, and it's no fun for sure.
Right. And, I think you mentioned something at the start of that, talking about the estrogen dominance, that, it also includes having not enough estrogen.
Yeah, you can have very deficient estrogen, but if your progesterone is even more deficient, it's that balance that's the key.
Right.
And, as we head into menopause, that balance is really the key. So it's not so much that our hormones are diminishing. They obviously are, because, when our ovaries stop working, we only have our backup system to produce those hormones, and that's the adrenal glands.
Yeah.
These are two glands on top of the kidneys. Now, if they're not working very well, or if we are very, very stressed, then we're going to have trouble producing hormones, obviously, so
Right.
yeah. So that's how that works.
Yeah. So stress plays a pretty pivotal role in all that's going on, in particular at this time of a woman's life. And when you look at, the ages between 35 and, 50, that's a stressful time anyway, right? I mean, a lot of women are, raising children during that time. They're working during that time. They might be also caring for an older family member at that time. So there's a lot going on and a lot of stressors that are being thrown at women at this, particular time in life that's already a volatile time in terms of our hormones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why self-care, hashtag self-care is so, so important, especially to women in midlife, because if you can take your body out of that fight, flight and back into a rest, digest mode, which is our natural way of being, if you like, then the body is going to produce more progesterone and lower cortisol. So we're going to be able to balance the hormones better that way. So self-care, and that would be like a daily self-care, is so, so important for women, especially at perimenopause and menopause. And also things like, because stress comes in many forms, the type of stress that you've highlighted there is really a sort of a mental, emotional, psychological stress.
Right.
But stress can also come from, it can be physical and it can be chemical. Now, the chemical can come from within our body. So if we have blood sugar dysregulation, some women try to starve themselves at this time of life, trying to lose that weight that's piling on around the middle, and many women actually try to starve themselves and go on very, very calorie controlled diets. And that's actually causing a stress to the body. The body will see that as another stressor, will release cortisol, and on goes the weight. And estrogen dominance is, magnified that way.
Yeah.
And we can also have physical stress as well. So that would be, traumas, injuries, and overtraining, even over exercising. I'm certainly one for, recommending exercise during this time, but because women are seeing all these negative things happening to their bodies, they go to the gym and maybe they push themselves. This is your area of expertise, Jen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Push themselves too hard, and that's causing stress to the body.
Right.
Cortisol release, progesterone will go down, estrogen dominance again.
Right.
So it's, when I recommend for women in midlife, exercise to do would be something a little more sedate. If they wanted to go to the gym, weight-bearing exercise is very good, and high-intensity interval training that allows the body to rest in between the reps is very good. So you're not pushing yourself into that stressful mode, that survival mode where the body is under so much stress that cortisol is being released all the time. So people, my clients often tell me, why am I still putting so much? I'm training every day. I'm running. I'm everything, but I'm still piling on the pounds around the middle. And that is the stress hormone cortisol, unfortunately.
Yeah. It becomes a endless cycle because they think they're doing, again, I'm doing all the right things, right? I'm cutting my calories. These are all the things that, may have worked in your 20s, right? I'm cutting my calories, slashing those calories. I'm being very restrictive with my diet. I'm going to the gym for an hour a day. And yet what's happening? I'm actually gaining weight. I'm not losing it. But
that's true. That's right.
Because what they're doing now, what they did in the past is no longer serving their bodies or their hormones.
No, precisely. That's right. It's things that we could get away with in the past. And I did all of that as well. All the calorie restriction and going to the gym every day and running and circuit training and all sorts of things that no longer work. They just don't.
Right.
Nowadays, we have to eat. I often tell women, you have to eat more. You have to eat more actually to lose weight.
Yeah.
And it's people don't understand that, but it's absolutely true.
Right.
Eating the right diet, eating a whole food diet. Another thing that we need to avoid as well, especially coming into menopause and coming into perimenopause and menopause, is eating the right diet and not being so reliant on the processed foods,
Right.
because they cause stress to the body. The body will see all those sugars and unhealthy fats.
Right.
There are healthy fats that we need to be eating, but those unhealthy fats, those trans fats that are in burgers and fries and things like that, and chips and what have you, the body sees that as a stressor as well. So we need to be on a whole food diet and eating plenty of food, not restricting our calories at this stage in time. If people wanted to lose weight, I would say intermittent fasting is very good. Mm-hmm. Stop eating at 8 p.m. perhaps, and then don't start eating again till 10 the next morning. So you've got that 14-hour fast where the body goes into like a repair mode, and you can begin to lose a little bit of weight that way. But certainly restricting calories and things like that is not the way to go. No.
Right. Yeah, it's especially as we're heading into this time when we know that, starting mid-30s, we do start to lose muscle, right? And so if we are restricting our calories, most of the time, we end up restricting protein, which we need so desperately.
Yes, absolutely. Protein is so important. And I think most women are actually under consuming protein as opposed to over consuming protein. I always recommend to start with a really good breakfast with protein, plenty of protein in that first meal of the day, and then carry on through with that high protein. Because as you say, Jen, that muscle loss, and quite often that is not just due to the hormones coming down, but it's due to stress. When the body's under a lot of stress, it's quite a catabolic process where the muscle is broken down, to make inflammatory metabolites, inflammatory chemicals. And so, yeah, we certainly don't want that. Mm-hmm. We want to hold on to that muscle.
Right. And then, as you mentioned, that whole stress reduction is a huge component.
Yeah, absolutely. So that could be anything like meditation, mindfulness, self-care, taking yourself for a walk, being in nature, doing gentle yoga. It doesn't have to be anything strenuous at all. Right. High intensity training if someone wanted to up the ante a little bit, but just relaxing and trying to get yourself into that rest, digest, our default mode. Away right. from that fight flight as much as possible. I know it's very difficult for some women because, as you say, they have families, they have elderly relatives to look after. But really, we have to prioritize ourselves at this time of life. And it's so important to do self-care every single day.
Right. I mean, and we're not saying go to the spa every day, right? I mean, that's not what we're just saying.
If you can.
I mean, it would be nice, right?
It would be nice. I wish.
But just adding some simple things into your day, whether that be, as you mentioned, going outside for a walk, and maybe you don't have, 30 consecutive minutes, but maybe you have 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at lunch, or, different times throughout the day, just to try to work these habits in. So that way, it's somewhere within your day, because I think we can all find 10 minutes. I mean, look at how much time, we're probably scrolling on our phones or,
Yeah, that's right. And that is stressful in itself because, social media isn't always a positive thing, is it?
Right.
Then you're coming against the radiation from the phones and from our devices, computers and what have you. We need to get out into nature and really get back in touch with nature so that we can bring ourselves back into this rest, digest mode, where we can breathe again and, and just relax into that, rest, digest mode. get that cortisol right down, and our body will then, our brain will read it as it is now safe to produce hormones. It's now safe to produce progesterone. And so our progesterone will start to rise and balance that estrogen. Okay, so that will help with our menopausal symptoms, and hormonal imbalances, and any sort of chronic health condition that we might have would benefit from that. Another important thing I wanted to address as well for the estrogen dominance is we are surrounded by xenoestrogens in the environment. These are chemicals that, they're in plastics, they're in the foods that we eat. And from the spraying process, the herbicides, the pesticides, they all produce estrogen-like chemicals that go into our bodies. They park themselves onto estrogen receptors on our cell membranes, okay? So our own estrogen can't work. So we have too much of this estrogen going on. And this xenoestrogen, unfortunately, doesn't show up on a blood test. So you take yourself off to the doctor saying, well, you don't feel so good. Please, could you take my blood and test for hormones? He'll come back with, well, your hormones are normal for your age.
Wow.
But these estrogens, they don't show up on a blood test. And so, we're taking all these things in from our beauty care products as well. Sometimes it's better to go with very clean beauty care products that don't have parabens and phthalates in and things like that. And so, it's so important. Plastics is another xenoestrogen contributor, and we're taking that in. Also, everything's wrapped in plastics, let's face it. So we are up against that struggle, unfortunately, which brings me to my next point, which has just reminded me that all the estrogens that are going into our bodies, including our own, need to be detoxified. Now, if we're not on a healthy eating, a healthy lifestyle regimen, our detoxification systems don't work quite so well, especially our liver. And so then we're not detoxifying these estrogens. And so they're going round and round in circle. They are getting reabsorbed back into our bloodstream, causing problems. Okay, so the detoxification of hormones is so important. And that really does depend on a healthy lifestyle and healthy diet, with lots of green leafy vegetables to help liver function, and eating lots of plant foods of different colors, animal foods as well, as long as they're natural foods.
Right. Yeah, all of those things. I think the most, I don't know if you want to call it stunning or, mic drop, whatever you want to call it, is that if you are struggling with midlife weight loss, the first place to start is stress reduction. And, and I think that might strike some women as, wait, what? I'm not supposed to eat less. I'm not supposed to, exercise more. I'm supposed to start with stress reduction. I mean, that's a very powerful thought and tool for women to know.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to lower those stressors, whether they be psychological stressors, emotional stressors, or even those chemical stressors happening in our body. We need to lower those stressors, whatever the source is, so that our body, the goal is to reduce cortisol, the stress hormone, as much as possible, because that is keeping the weight gain on.
Right.
When we are in this survival mode, the body will hoard calories, even if we're eating nothing. It will hold on to everything, thinking there's a famine ahead, thinking that we need to survive and we need to hold on to that fat.
Yeah.
I mean, this time of life, it's not quite so easy to lose weight anyway. Right. But if we're doing all the things that we used to do, that used to work, that really are not working for us now, actually making the problem worse, unfortunately. Right. Yeah. And that does come as a bit of a shock to many women that I speak to, because they think, whoa, you're telling me to exercise less. Well, I'm not telling you to exercise less, but just change it.
Yes.
Change the exercise.
And I think that's the big key here, is that we're not saying you need to go sit on the couch.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. We're just saying
and then you can sit down.
Yeah. We're saying,
active.
Find the right exercises, right? The weight bearing, the strength training, the high intensity, the gentle stretches with the yoga.
Yeah, absolutely. The right exercise is absolutely key. And also, as you know, Jen, the weight-bearing exercises, they help prevent osteoporosis
Right.
beyond menopause because it does strengthen bones as well.
Right. Right. Which is so
That's really,
important because of your
yeah,
risk of falling as you age. And, we
yeah,
know that falls can create, you know, deadly complications as you age.
yeah, absolutely. And this is where we need enough estrogen, obviously, because
Right.
estrogen is very important for bones.
Mhm.
It's very important for the heart. I'm not demonizing estrogen in any way, but we need to get
No.
that balance
Right.
between the hormones, between estrogen and progesterone, because progesterone helps in other ways. It's nicknamed the pretty hormone because it helps with collagen synthesis.
Yeah.
So as soon as progesterone starts declining and we have too much stress, we may notice our skin elasticity isn't so good. We may have droopy jowls and things like that start appearing, and it really shows. Stress really shows on someone's face, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So just having enough progesterone and enough estrogen without being deficient in either.
Right. Yeah. That again, balance, just like everything else in life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And some women will have HRT, obviously, and I'm not against HRT in
Hmm.
any way, hormone replacement.
Hmm.
I do think that really women should choose natural, bioidentical hormones if they want to go that route.
Hmm.
And of course, some women can't take HRT at all, and it doesn't agree with them. It makes their symptoms worse.
Okay.
And I meet women like that as well. I didn't have HRT myself, but I prepared myself in advance for my menopause to make sure everything went smoothly. So I was fairly balanced as I went through. Still a little estrogen dominance,
Hmm.
very difficult not to be because we're bombarded by so many estrogens.
Right.
But it certainly helped me the natural way. But not everyone can go the way I went.
Hmm.
Certain family members with similar genetics to me needed hormones as well.
Right.
But women shouldn't think that they're taking hormone replacement therapy and that's it. They can just eat whatever they like or do whatever they like. It's very, very important that those hormones are detoxified. So being on a good diet, having that, self-care ritual. Again, people can still be on hormones, hormones from their doctors and still be estrogen dominant. So
Right.
that's something to bear in mind.
If you were to, to suggest to women certain foods that they should definitely be working into their diet during this
Right.
time, what would
Okay.
you suggest?
Right. Okay. Eat foods that are as natural as possible. So if you pick up a packet of something and flip it over and see what the ingredients list that's longer than 10 items, you should put that back. So natural foods, natural as possible, but certainly green leafy vegetables and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, and other dark green leafy vegetables are very, very important. Berries are very, very good. Nuts, seeds are very, very good for helping to balance estrogen and progesterone.
Okay.
Particular. So keeping to a very natural diet, if you are eating meat, make sure it's clean. So much of the meat that we have in our world today is injected with hormones, which when you consume them, they can mess up your own hormones. So as clean as possible. That's fish as well. So meat and fish to be as clean as possible, or dairy. But yeah, lots of plant foods. I would say our plate has to be made up of at least 50% plant foods on the plate. And maybe if we wanted to lose a little bit of weight, just to cut down on the grains a little, maybe give up wheat gluten, for instance, stick to quinoa, brown rice, but have only very small portions of that, but have more protein on the plate, more protein, more vegetables, and less grains.
Mm-hmm.
Make it natural. So that would be the key.
Yeah. Protein and fiber, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We need that fiber so that we can detoxify those estrogens that would otherwise cause us harm. And of course, we all know about the estrogen dependent cancers, which we are more at risk of as we move through our peri and menopausal years.
Mm-hmm. Right. Is there anything else, Marie, that you think that we need to address that we missed?
I don't think I've missed anything. I think I've covered pretty much everything. But the key is not to worry, because again, is another form to worry too much. To know that there's things that can be done no matter what age you are. It's never too late to change your diet and lifestyle for the better.
Right.
And it takes around 3 months to actually reset your biochemistry.
Wow.
But you can begin to get changes. You can begin to feel the effects, the positive effects, sooner than that. So it's something worth aiming for sure.
Right. And again, you don't need a prescription for any of this. It's all lifestyle changes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way to go. The root cause.
Yes, exactly. Because so often we're just given a pill to take this pill, right?
That's
Whereas
right.
if we address the root cause, then we can help to, feel longer, lifelong, right? I mean, not just right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can help to prevent any health conditions from manifesting in the future.
Right.
A lot of these chronic health conditions, they take 10, 15, 20 years to manifest. But if we start now and start protecting our health, we can live through, to a ripe old age without too many health problems. And that's what we're aiming for here.
Right. We're not just aiming for quantity of years, but quality of years. And by making these lifestyle changes, it allows for a better quality of life as we age.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right, Jen. Absolutely. For sure.
Well, thank you, Marie. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great. Thank you, Jen.
Yes. Well, thank you for listening to the Fit News podcast. We will catch you next time.